If the members of human society actually want peace of mind, tranquility, and friendly relations between men and nations, so it's not only on the personal level, it's on the social and national level also, and international level, they must follow the Krishna conscious system of religion by which they can develop their dormant love for Krishna. The purpose of any religious practice is to develop a love of God. It's not to develop economically. Economic development will happen naturally according to our previous karma. We cannot get more or less based on what we did in our previous life. We are receiving in this life what we deserve from our previous life's activities. So you cannot get more or less. Some people think, well, no, but through education, through this thing, through that thing, we can increase our wealth. Well, let's just look practically at life. Like, for example, just 2 days ago, the ambassador of Russia to Turkey, right at the height of his career, was assassinated. Did he realize that was going to happen? Absolutely not. Right? So we don't really know what we deserve to get due to our previous karma. Of course, you can go to a palm reader, you can go to an astrologer, they'll say certain things. But you don't actually know until it happens. So one of the great benefits of taking the Krishna consciousness, and this is why, once I realized this, I joined the movement myself. Yastrindra Gopam Altavendra Ahosvakarma Bandhana Rupa Falabhajanam Atanoti Karmani Nidhati Kintu Chabakti Bhajam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So this mantra from the Brahma Samhita, verse number 54 says, I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami, who burns up to their roots all fruitive activities. So that means that all our previous karma is burned or purified. Who burns up to their roots all fruitive activities of those who are imbued with devotion and impartially ordains for each the due enjoyment of the fruits of one's activities, of all those who walk in the path of work, in accordance with the chain of their previous performed work, no less in the case of the tiny insect that bears the name of Indragopa than that of Indra, king of the Devas. So everyone from Indra down to the most minute insect are subject to the law of karma. But if one engages in the service of Govinda or Krishna, all those karmic reactions are purified. In other words, unless we are free of our previous karma, we cannot actually engage in devotional service. How do we become free from our previous karma? By voluntarily choosing to be instructed by bona fide spiritual masters, Shiksha and Diksha Gurus, and engaging in practical devotional service. Beginning with Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing about Krishna, like we're doing now, and chanting or repeating what we hear, or chanting the glories of the Lord. And, of course, chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This changes our karma. In other words, it erases our karma. And it frees us to engage in the service of Krishna. Otherwise, we'll be forced by the laws of nature to engage in so many self-interested activities that just entangle us more in the cycle of karma. It's a vicious cycle. One thing leads to another, which leads to another, and we always remain entangled. Unless we can break away from that chain of self-victimization called the process of karma and reactive work, basically. Reactive work means when we work without the interest of Krishna, but work selfishly for our own interest, there are reactions that bind us to the cycle of birth and death. So if the members of human society actually want peace of mind, tranquility, and friendly relations between men and nations, they must follow the Krishna-conscious system of religion by which they can develop their dormant love for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You can't love a wall, you can't love a cloud, you can't love the sky, but you can love a person. And if you choose to love Krishna, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That love is the most significant. And then you can share that love with others. That is the perfection of human life. As soon as people do so, their minds will immediately be filled with peace and tranquility. So everyone wants peace of mind. In order to relieve the tension of material life, people take tranquilizers, they take sleeping pills, they take mood-altering drugs in order to calm the mind so that they can function in society. When the mind becomes agitated, it's very difficult to focus on work. In this regard, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur warns all devotees engaged in broadcasting the Krishna consciousness movement not to speak to the impersonalist Mayavadis, who are always determined to oppose such theistic movements. So in India, and now around the world, you have a large class of people who are impersonalists. They do not believe that God is a person. They believe that there is one supreme state of spirituality, which is impersonal, something like a spiritual light or energy that's emanating eternally, and that by denying our individuality, we can merge into that oneness and attain peace, which is a type, but that kind of peace is a type of death. There's no activity in that peace. There's no variety. There's just some type of existence, eternal existence. But that cannot be permanent, because the nature of our soul is to be active, and our soul is individual. We can't try to deny the individuality of ourself, but see, we can't even deny our individuality in sleep. While we're sleeping, we dream of doing things in our dream, and things happening to us. So even in a sleep, we can't deny our individuality. But one can artificially try and blank out their individuality by meditating on a void, and that's called sunyavad, or meditating on an impersonal light, and that's called mayavad. But the real goal of meditation is not meditating on a void or meditating on a light. So this is explained in the 8th chapter, verse number 9, where Krishna says, Kavim Puranam Anusasitaram Anur Aniyam Sad Anusmaridya Sarvata Dataram Achintya Rupam Adityavarnam Tamasa Parastat. One should meditate, Krishna says, upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything. He's speaking about himself. As he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature. He's speaking about himself. And when he says he's smaller than the smallest, yes, the Paramatma, his expansion is Paramatma, the Supersoul, is in the heart of the Jiva. The Jiva is our soul. So he's in the heart of our soul. Now the size of our soul is 1/10,000th the tip of a hair. And Krishna is in the heart of our soul. So he's smaller than the smallest. Already the Jiva soul is the smallest thing in material nature. But he's smaller than that, because he's in the heart of our soul. So we see every one of these phrases describing Krishna, when it says Anur Aniyam Sam Anusmaridya, which means that he is Anur Aniyam Sam, smaller than the atom. So Krishna is the source of meditation. Now, Arjuna is advised by Krishna. He says, Tasmat sarve sukale sumam anusmara yudhya mayar pitamano buddhir mam evaisya samsaya. He says, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna. The same Krishna that was standing in front of Arjuna on his chariot. And at the same time, carry out your prescribed duty of fighting, or your prescribed duty, your duty in life. With your activities dedicated to me and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. So this is the real goal of meditation. It's not this silent meditation, meditating on nothing, or meditating on a tip of the nose, or meditating on the light. So, therefore it says, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura warns all devotees engaged in broadcasting the Krishna consciousness movement not to speak to the impersonalist Mayavadis, who are always determined to oppose such theistic movements. The world is full of Mayavadis, or impersonalists, and atheists, and the political parties of the world take advantage of Mayavada and other atheistic philosophies to promote materialism. This is the disease in India today. Most of the gurus in India are Mayavadi, impersonalist gurus. They say, you must kill the ego in order to merge into the eternal light. Well, kill the ego? You're talking about killing yourself. So that's a type of spiritual suicide. And that's not going to solve the problem of birth, death, old age, and disease. In fact, the whole concept of total renunciation is false. Krishna explains that. He says in the beginning of the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Nakarmanam anurambam Naiskarmyam purusha asnute nacha sanyasanad eva siddhim samadhigacchati. It says, not nearly by abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. So it's not by giving up activity, nor by renouncing things that one attains perfection. Well, okay. That was Arjuna's problem. He said, well, look, if I fight in this battle, I'm going to kill one side of my family. And the other side of my family will also be killed in the battle. So therefore, why should I fight and commit such sinful activities? I won't fight. So by abstaining from work, one doesn't attain perfection, because Krishna is asking him to fight, ordering him to fight, and is refusing to follow Krishna's order. So that right there is a sin, the greatest sin. So can we avoid sinful reactions by avoiding action? No. There's an example. Like, for example, once there was a yogi who was meditating, and he was meditating in an area that was near a rich man's mansion. And at one time, some thieves came to that area, and they were looking for the rich man, but he and his wife and children left their mansion and were hiding somewhere. And they interrupted the yogi's meditation, and said, "Sir, you're a yogi. You are dedicated to telling the truth. Tell us where the rich man and his family are." And he said, well, yes, you're right. I have to tell the truth. They're over there somewhere. So the thieves followed the direction he pointed in, and they found the rich man and his family, and they robbed them and killed them. Years later, when the yogi died, he was expecting to go back to Vaikuntha, but to his surprise, the Yamadutas came, Yamaraja's agents, and they took him to hell. And he came in front of Yamaraj. He said, "What's going on here? I think you made a mistake." He said, "No, we haven't made a mistake." He said, "Look, all my life I was meditating. I never heard anything. I never even heard an ant. Why am I here?" He said, "Because you participated in killing an innocent family. I said, what? What? I didn't kill anybody. No, but you gave the information by which they were killed. So he was trying to avoid all action, but he had a vow of so-called honesty. But even a vow of honesty, if it hurts another person, it's not a good thing. You can get in trouble. And that's exactly what happened to that yogi. He went to hell because he was a party to murder. So we see you cannot abstain from action because the nature of the soul is to act. And we cannot simply renounce things and attain perfection, because we'll end up renouncing something that could be actually useful in Krishna's service, right? So this is also explained in the second chapter, in verse 63 in the purport, Anasaktasya vishayan yatarhan upayunjitaha nirbande Krishna sambande yukta vairagyam uchyate. So this is a famous verse by Rupa Goswami, and he says, when one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts everything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. So that's called falgu vairagya, incomplete renunciation. So someone who is developed in Krishna consciousness knows how to use everything in Krishna's service. And if we don't use something that could be useful to Krishna's service, that's incomplete renunciation. So there's a world of difference between knowing how to use everything in Krishna's service and renouncing everything. So renunciation alone, it will not lead to perfection, nor will refraining from activity lead to perfection. However, engaging in Krishna's service continually and at the same time learning how to use everything properly in Krishna's service, that leads to perfection. See? So we see that there are many misconceptions proliferated by the Mayavadi philosophers or impersonalists that'll hold a person back from attaining perfection in this lifetime and continue in the cycle of birth and death, all the while thinking they have achieved the highest perfection of knowledge. See, there's a very instructive verse in the Ishopanishad that says, verse number 9 and 10, it says, those who engage in the culture of ignorant activities shall enter into the darkest region of ignorance. So that we understand. You engage in ignorant activity, smoking, drinking, all that stuff, you go into the darkest region of ignorance. But then it says, worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. That's worse than engaging in ignorant activity. So what is this so-called knowledge? So-called knowledge is exemplified by the Veda Vata Ratas. This is explained in the Mundaka Upanishad as well as in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where it said Veda Vata Ratas are people who misinterpret the Vedic literature. In other words, they read the Vedas, they know Sanskrit, they've studied Sanskrit, they study the Vedas, they misinterpret them. Right? So, how do they misinterpret them? Well, this is explained in the second chapter. Where it says, Ya idam purusham vacham puruvacha prajapati. One second, let me find this verse. second chapter, 42nd to 43rd verse, Bhagavad Gita. Ya idam purusam pushpitam vacham prabhavanti avipaschita vedavata rata partha. So there it is, vedavada rata. Nanyat astitivadina karmatmana svargapara janma karma phala pradam kriya visesa bahulam bhogaisvarya gatim prapti. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, result in good births, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. So this is what's being said in the ninth mantra of Ishopanishad also. These Vedavata-ratas misinterpret the goal of the Vedas. They think the goal of the Vedas is to perform pujas, such as Satya Narayana Puja, for material development. And how do we know it's for material development? Because the priest will have you repeat in the beginning of the Satyanarayana Puja, he says, say mama. Mama. What does mama mean? You know what mama means? Yeah. Now, is that the goal of puja? But is that the goal of puja? Huh? It's not that it should not be. It is not the goal. It's not that it should not be. It is not the goal of puja. And this is explained in the 18th chapter, verse number 6, where Krishna says to Arjuna, Itanyapi tu karmani sangam tyakva falanicha kartavyani time parta nishchitam batam uttamam. So all these activities, all these different pujas and rituals should be performed without attachment or any expectation of result. That means no mama. They should be performed as a matter of duty, O son of Prita. That is my final opinion. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, although all sacrifices are purifying, one should not expect any result by such performances. In other words, all sacrifices which are meant for material advancement in life should be given up. But sacrifices that purify one's existence and elevate one to the spiritual plane should not be stopped. Everything that leads to Krishna consciousness must be encouraged. In Srimad Bhagavatam also it is said that any activity which leads to devotional service to the Lord, in other words, pure devotional service to the Lord, should be accepted. That is the highest criterion of religion. A devotee of the Lord should accept any kind of work, sacrifice, or charity which will help him in the discharge of devotional service to the Lord. So this mama business is complete nonsense. But yet, everyone is seeking mama. Mama doesn't mean mommy. Mama means my own benefit. The hell with Narayana, the hell with Lakshmi. Me, I'm number one. All that is number two. So you see, is that the purpose of spiritual life? That's why it says, worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge. Yeah, there are Vedic mantras. Ha, hu, he, ha, wa, hu, ha. They're saying the Vedic mantras. They're doing the Vedic rituals, but the whole purpose of it is wrong and misleading people. And it leads to atheism. So, Prabhupada explains here, this mantra 9 offers a comparative study of vidya and avidya. Avidya, or ignorance, is undoubtedly dangerous, but vidya, or knowledge, is even more dangerous when mistaken or misguided. This mantra, Shirsh Upanishad, is more applicable today than at any time in the past. Why is that? Because today, people are being miseducated. Notice the word education is there. But it's miseducation. Yeah, they know Vedas, they know Bhagavad Gita, they know this thing, they know that thing, but it's all misinterpreted. And therefore, rather than being beneficial, it's more dangerous than ignorance. It's better not to be educated in this case than to be miseducated. This mantra of Shri Ishopanishad is more applicable today than at any time in the past. Modern civilization has advanced considerably in the field of mass education. Yeah, you have public schools, public universities, public this, public that. There's mass education today. You have Wikipedia, you have the internet, you have this, you have that. There's information everywhere. There's information overload, right? But it's all, or mostly all of it, is misinformation and or information that's misinterpreted. But the result is that people are more unhappy than ever before because of the stress placed on material advancement to the exclusion of the most important part of life, spiritual aspect. There it is in a nutshell. All that education that people are getting today is for material advancement. And because of that over insistence on material education, they're not spending any time trying to figure out what is the purpose of life, what is the spiritual aspect of life. As far as Vidya is concerned, the first mantra has explained very clearly that the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything, and that forgetfulness of this fact is ignorance. Now, does the United States accept that God is the proprietor of everything? What do you think? What do you think? Does the United States accept it? Does the United States government accept that God is the proprietor of everything? No, they don't accept that. This is a capitalist country. It accepts that the individual is the proprietor. Does a communist country accept that God is the proprietor? No. The community of people are the proprietors. Does a socialist state accept that God is the proprietor? No. Socialist state says that government is the proprietor, right? Does a fascist dictator state accept that God is the proprietor? Absolutely not. They think the dictator is the proprietor. You see? Does a monarchy accept that God is the proprietor? No. And they think the king and the nobles are the proprietors. You see, every system of government is based on a concept of proprietorship. And each one of those concepts of proprietorship are wrong. Therefore, people living in those different governmental states are being misled. And because we're being misled, we're given the wrong information. We cannot attain happiness or peace. That's why, if you look at the history of the world, it's a history of war. There's one war going on after another. There's a war going on right now. There's several wars going on in the world right now. There's an international war going on between many countries and Daesh or ISIL. So you see, as far as Vidya is concerned, the first mantra has explained very clearly that the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything. And that forgetfulness of this fact is ignorance. The more a man forgets this fact of life, the more he is in darkness. In view of this, a godless civilization directed toward the so-called advancement of material education is more dangerous than a civilization in which the masses of people are less educated. Wow. This is very interesting to say. Now, let's look at our own lives. I mean, you have a lot of friends, right, Prabhu? You have a lot of... You don't have any friends? Yeah, of course. You have a lot of friends. Come on, you know a lot of people, right? Now, when people get together, let's say your friends or people that you know get together, what do they talk about? Yeah, exactly right. That's the truth. You see, why? And these are supposed to be spiritual people, right? Well, even the spiritual people, they also talk about, those things, right? How much do they talk about spiritual things? Yeah. And these are the spiritual people. How about the majority of people are not spiritual, right? So that 10%, that's out the window, right? So you see, this is the dilemma. If you look honestly, you'll see that there's very little, and spiritual for them is, like Satyanarayana Puja, mama business, right? So that is not really spiritual. That they're calling it spiritual, but it's not really spiritual. There's something there, but very little, very little. So we see that that's why it's saying here, and this is a shocking statement for most people. It says that in view of this, a godless civilization directed toward the so-called advancement of education, meaning material education, is more dangerous than a civilization in which the masses of people are less educated. Less educated, right? Okay. In the language of Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, 15th verse, people who are engaged in gross sense gratification are mudas, ass-like people. The ass is a symbol of stupidity. Those who simply engage in a profitless pursuit of sense gratification are worshipping avidya, ignorance, according to Sri Upanishad. Now, can you imagine that? He's saying people are worshipping avidya, ignorance. And those who play the role of helping this sort of civilization in the name of educational advancement are actually doing more harm than those who are on the platform of gross sense gratification. In other words, the people who drink, smoke, engage in illicit activities, gamble, they're better than the people giving false information and false education. They're better than them, even though the ones that are doing education have nice ties and nice suits and nice cufflinks and they have nice apartments and houses and cars and all these nice things, right? They're more dangerous than the ignorant, unbathed, uncouth people. You see, this is an unbelievable statement, but it's a fact. And those who play the role of helping this sort of civilization, a civilization that is after sense gratification. Now, what is sense gratification? Now, a new set of symbols of sense gratification has come into view now. It's the Japanese robot that looks like Kim Kardashian or any movie star you want. You can get a special-made Japanese, just like you want to get a special-made Tesla, you want to get a special-made Lincoln or Cadillac. Now you can get a special-made Japanese robot that looks and speaks exactly like a movie star. And you can have sense gratification with it. That's the new standard of sense gratification now. Have you read about that? You have not. Huh? What rock are you living under? You must be living under. Have you read about that? Yeah. Yes. Not that. It's that you're actually doing the right thing, not reading about that nonsense, right? But this nonsense is going on. The different degrees of sense gratification have become technologically advanced, highly technologically advanced, but it's the same old sense gratification. The reason why we are held in the process of birth and death. Okay, so and those who play the role of helping this sort of civilization, in other words, the scientists, the philosophers, the businessmen, the politicians, all these guys are all educated guys, in the name of educational advancement, are actually doing more harm than those who are on the platform of gross sense gratification. They're doing worse than the ass-like people who are working just for gross sense gratification. The advancement of learning by godless people is as dangerous as a valuable jewel on the hood of a cobra. If there's a diamond on the head of the cobra, and it's a big diamond, it's worth maybe $500,000, would you be tempted to try and grab the diamond? Huh? You would not? If you knew it was worth $500,000, ha, think again. Think again. $500,000, that's a lot of money. Most people would brave fighting with the cobra to get the diamond. And most people end up dying. Somebody might get it. A cobra decorated with a valuable jewel is more dangerous than one not decorated. In the Hari Bhakti Sudodaya 3.11.12, the advancement of education by godless people is compared to decorations on a dead body. Okay, 1 second. In India, as in many other countries, some people follow the custom of leading a procession with a decorated dead body for the pleasure of the lamenting relatives. In the same way, modern civilization is a patchwork of activities meant to cover the perpetual miseries of material existence. So in the same way that they decorate the dead body to take it on a procession in India to the burning god, all these things, Japanese robots, Teslas, Hardy siding, and saunas, digital watches, all these things. It's all decoration of a dead body. And people are spending all their time and energy trying to get these things. In the same way, modern civilization is a patchwork of activities meant to cover the perpetual miseries of material existence. All such activities are aimed towards sense gratification. But above the senses is the mind, and above the mind is the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul. Thus, the aim of real education should be self-realization. Realization of the spiritual values of the soul. Any education which does not lead to such realization must be considered avidya or nescience, ignorance. And to culture such ignorance means to go down to the darkest region of ignorance. According to Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 42nd verse, and 7th chapter, 15th verse, mistaken mundane educators are known as Vedavadarata and Maya Apita Jnana. They may also be atheistic demons, the lowest of men. Those who are Vedavadarata pose themselves as very learned in the Vedic literature, but unfortunately they are completely diverted from the purpose of the Vedas. So we have many priests nowadays who are PhDs. They get their PhD in some university, maybe in Tirupati or somewhere else in South India, in Sanskrit, and they learn the rituals, and they learn different pujas and things like this. But they're Vedavadaratas. They're misleading people into mama business. They're what you call in the ustadi business, giving the archana. So they do the archana. What is archana? The way they do archana is for your material benefit. May you have long life. May you have many kids. May your kids pass the SAT. May your business thrive. May your backache go away. May your operation, heart bypass operation, be a success. This thing, that, all material advancement pujas. Nothing about spirituality. No, it doesn't change. It makes it worse. It makes it, like, for example, let's say you buy a lottery ticket. The lottery is like $10 million. You buy a lottery ticket and you get, I don't know, let's say 8 out of 10 of the numbers right. You miss 2 of the numbers, right? You still get $25. Right? Now, that $25 that you win convinces you to continue to play the lottery. Does it not? You say, I almost won. I just missed 2 numbers. Next time I'll win more. So, you see, they're always... Let me tell you that the greatest psychologists are hired by the casinos, the racetrack people, and the lottery people to mentally control you. The way they present things, it mentally controls you. So you keep coming back to play the lottery or to go to the casino. The casino, like for example, in my family, they were all gamblers. My brothers, my father, my uncles, they were all gamblers, right? So, and I had one cousin who's an extremely wealthy guy. So he and my brother were in a casino in Atlantic City. And this cousin won $300,000 shooting the dice. $300,000. So when you win so much money, you go to cash in the chips, and they give you the money in a suitcase, and they give you 2 armed guards, with guns, and they'll take you wherever you want to go with the money. You want to go to a bank, but if it's late at night, you can't go to a bank, so they'll take you to your hotel room, because it's $300,000 in cash, right? So my cousin and my brother, who was sort of tagging along with him, they went to cash in the chips, and then they got the suitcase, right, and armed guards. And my cousin said, "Oh, I have to go to this other casino." My brother said, "Why have to go? Look, you just won $300,000. Let's celebrate." He said, "No, I owe the other casino $300,000. You say, there's no such thing as a winner. The only guys who are winners are cheaters. They know how to cheat the casinos. And there are many people who have become expert at cheating the casinos, but the casinos are not done. They have these cameras everywhere. When they see that someone is winning a lot of money, right, that's not normal. So they usually catch them cheating. They figure out, because they have the cameras, and or they will not allow them to come back to the casino again. They take their name and they blacklist them, because it's not normal. They could beat the casino. Sometimes people go in and win $500,000. They're definitely cheating, but they've done it in a very clever way. That's why the casino has these cameras. They do iridology, eye recognition, identification. They do all these things to protect themselves, because it's not normal that a person can come in and win so much money, right? So anyway, you get the point that Prabhupada said this is a society of cheaters and cheated. There are cheaters and cheated. So those people who encourage people to be cheaters, to use rituals, Vedic rituals for material advancement, they're the worst. They're called Veda Vadarata or Maya Aprita Jnana. Their knowledge has been stolen by ignorance. Any education which does not lead to such realization, meaning understanding your eternal relationship with Krishna and acting in that relationship, must be considered avidya or nescience. And to culture such ignorance means to go down to the darkest region of ignorance. So therefore this mantra says that those who engage in the culture of ignorant activities, eating meat, gambling, all that, they enter the darkest region of ignorance. But worse still are those engaged in the culture of so-called knowledge, the Veda Vadaratas. They're worse, because they're misleading the mass of people into ignorance. According to Bhagavad Gita 2:42 and 43, the verse that we read tonight, mistaken mundane educators are known as Veda Vadarata and Maya Aprita Jnana. They may also be atheistic demons, the lowest of men. In other words, he's equating these Veda Vadaratas to demons. Why? Because they're misleading people. Those who are Veda Vadaratas pose themselves as very learned in the Vedic literature, but unfortunately, they are completely diverted from the purpose of the Vedas. What's the purpose of the Vedas? Vedaischa sarver aham eva vedya, 15th chapter, 15th verse. And Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hridi samvisto, I am in the heart of every living entity. Matak smita jnanam apahanam cha. From me come knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. Vedaischa sarver aham eva vedya. And I am the goal of the Vedas. No, in other words, if you study the Vedas to know me, then you're correctly studying the Vedas. But if you study the Vedas to get rid of your backache, or for your business to get better, or for your son to pass the SAT, then you are nonsense. That's not the purpose of the Vedas. Vedas is to know Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita 15:15, 15th chapter, it is said that the purpose of the Vedas is to know the personality of Godhead. But these Vedavadarata men are not at all interested in the personality of Godhead. On the contrary, they are fascinated by such fruitive results as the attainment of heaven. So one time I was invited in Seattle to go to one temple, and they were celebrating Ekadasi. Actually, no, it was Vaikuntha Ekadasi. Right? So this Vaikuntha Ekadasi is very popular in South India. So after all the rituals were done, they invited me to sit down for prasadam with the priests. So I was sitting there. And they were serving on banana leaves. Everything was traditional, right? And they served me grains. And I said, Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Radha Nila Madhava Ki Jai, Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhakti Sivatam Bhakti Naswata, Namaste Saraswati Devi Gurmani Charani Visesha Vaskati. So they served grains. And I said, oh, I can't eat this. I said, there's grains. And the priest told me, oh, no, you can eat them today. I said, what? He said, no, you can eat, it's okay. We eat all the time. Now, who am I going to follow? Am I going to follow what Prabhupada says, or am I going to follow what this? And the priest is a PhD in Sanskrit and Sanskrit learning. So who am I going to follow? You see, this is the problem. They're misleaders, and they're PhDs in Sanskrit. That's right here in Seattle. Imagine in other places. So here it says, as stated in Mantra 1 of the Ishopanishad, we should know that the personality of Godhead is the proprietor of everything, and that we must be satisfied with our allotted portions of the necessities of life. In other words, Krishna has set aside for everyone their minimum needs. The purpose of all Vedic literature is to awaken this God consciousness in the forgetful living being, and the same purpose is presented in various ways in different scriptures of the world for the understanding of a foolish mankind. Thus, the ultimate purpose of all religions is to bring one back to Godhead. But the Vedavatarata people, instead of realizing that the purpose of the Vedas is to revive the forgetful soul's lost relationship with the personality of Godhead, they take it for granted that such side issues as the attainment of heavenly pleasure for sense gratification, the lust for which causes their material bondage in the first place, are the ultimate end of the Vedas. You see, that's the gist of it. They are saying that instead of directing people towards self-realization, understanding our eternal relationship with Krishna, they're directing them towards side issues, insignificant things, as the attainment of heavenly pleasure, going to Swarga for sense gratification. Therefore, the mantras that they say are mantras all directed toward the demigods. Very few of their mantras are meant for Lord Vishnu. And if it is meant for Lord Vishnu, it's a philosophized Vishnu. Now, what is a philosophized Vishnu? It's the Vishnu who supplies material benefits, such as in Satyanarayana Puja. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Let me just find it. It's in the 17th chapter. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is 17th chapter. The impersonalists are supposed to be situated in the mode of goodness, and they worship 5 kinds of demigods. They worship the impersonal Vishnu form in the material world. which is known as philosophized Vishnu. Vishnu is the expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the impersonalists, because they do not ultimately believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, imagine that the Vishnu form is just another aspect of the impersonal Brahman. Similarly, they imagine that Lord Brahma is the impersonal form in the material mode of passion. Thus, they sometimes describe 5 kinds of gods that are worshipable, but because they think that the actual truth is impersonal Brahman, they dispose of all worshipable objects at the ultimate end. Yeah, therefore they do Visarjan. This whole idea of, oh, you make Ganapati and then you take him and throw him in the ocean, Visarjan. There's complete nonsense. There is no such shastric evidence of doing something like that. Right? You establish a deity, you worship a deity for the rest of your life. Right? And for all time. So therefore there are deities that, did they do Visarjan with Padmanabha? Did they do Visarjan with Balaji? Did they do Visarjan with Ranganath? Huh? Did they say, well, every so often we take Ranganath, we throw him in the ocean, you know? No, they didn't do it. I mean, Ranganath's there 1.7 million years. Padmanabha is there, I don't know how long, it's for hundreds and thousands of years, right? So this whole concept of the philosophized Vishnu, of the impersonalists, is complete nonsense. In conclusion, the different qualities of the material modes of nature can be purified through association with persons who are of transcendental nature. So we have to associate with people who are following correctly the Vedic knowledge and practicing it correctly. Otherwise, we'll be misled. So therefore it says, the Veda-Vadarata people, instead of realizing that the purpose of the Vedas is to revive the forgetful soul's lost relationship with the personality of Godhead, take it for granted that such side issues as the attainment of heavenly pleasures for sense gratification, the lust for which causes their material bondage in the first place, are the ultimate end of the Vedas. Such people misguide others by misinterpreting the Vedic literature. Sometimes they even condemn the Puranas, which are authentic Vedic explanations for laymen. The Veda-Vadaratas give their own explanations of the Vedas, neglecting the authority of great teachers, acharyas. They also tend to raise some unscrupulous person from among themselves and present him as the leading exponent of the Vedic knowledge. Such Veda-Vadaratas are especially condemned in this mantra by the very appropriate Sanskrit words Vidyayam Rataha. Vidyayam refers to the study of the Vedas because the Vedas are the origin of all knowledge, Vidya, and Rata means those engaged. Vidyayam Rataha thus means those engaged in the study of the Vedas. The so-called students of the Vedas are condemned herein because they are ignorant of the actual purpose of the Vedas on account of their disobeying the acharyas. Such Veda-Vadaratas search out meanings in every word of the Vedas to suit their own purposes. They do not know that the Vedic literature is a collection of extraordinary books that can be understood only through the chain of disciplic succession. So, we'll stop right there. You get the idea. Without an acharya like Srila Prabhupada, studying the Vedas is dangerous business. We'll come up with our own misinterpretations, or we'll listen to somebody else's misinterpretations, and all the while that we think that we're on the right track, we're following the Vedas, we're learning Sanskrit, we're learning grammar, we're going to merge into the Brahman, that this deity worship is all for sentimental people, but on the lower level we can do it, but on a higher level we can give it up. It's all misconceptions. And then we go and get into the mama business, you know. This is good for you, you will benefit from this materially. And then we listen to all these mantras, we don't even know what they mean, but most of those mantras that they're saying, it's all offered to the demigods. and then the ultimate, the beginning of the nonsense is Brahma, Guru Shiva, Guru Vishnu. As soon as they start off like that, you know the rest is all nonsense. Right? because that is Mayavad philosophy. Complete Mayavad philosophy. Okay, so we'll stop right there. We didn't finish text 4. We'll do it tomorrow. Are there any questions anyone wants to ask? Nope. No questions? No answers. Yeah. Well, if you don't read the Bhagavad Gita, then you don't understand how it's impersonal. If you read the Bhagavad Gita, you would understand. No, well, there's only one guru, that is Krishna. And whoever repeats Krishna's words can also act as guru. But if you, but anyway, let you do an experiment. You ask someone who teaches this Guru Brahma, Guru Shiva, Guru Vishnu, what they mean by it. Don't you tell them anything. Let them explain to you. Write down what they say. You come back here and explain it to me. No. Don't say anything to them. Just say, what do you understand by Guru Brahma, Guru Shiva?
Well, even understand that everybody is a guru. Whoever you mentioned, that Brahma, so you're just calling these three gurus as a guru.
Well, okay. Well, let's see what Prabhupada says here and what Krishna says. If they repeat what Krishna says, they can be guru. But if they think that they are all equal, for example, what does it say? First, offense against the holy name. And then the second offense, to think that the names of the demigods like Brahma or Shiva are equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. Right? So, if they consider that they're all equal, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, that is Mayavad philosophy. So, but that's the implication of that mantra. No, don't say what you think. You ask somebody who is into that Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu thing. You ask them what they think. As soon as you say, I think, that means I stink. It's not I think, it's I stink. We don't care what I think, we don't care what you think. We care what Krishna thinks and what the Acharyas think, right? What we think is I stink. What the Acharyas think, that's I think. That's real think, okay? So you do it, we're going to do an experiment. You go around and ask people what they think that mantra means. And just write down word for word what they say. Don't add it, don't try and correct them. Just learn from them what they think that means. You'll come back and you tell me. All right? But don't say anything. Just listen. Don't try and correct them. Don't try and coach them. Okay? Okay, so here in Bhagavad Gita, okay, Krishna is the original guru. Let's see here. Prabhupada says, yeah, okay, 11th chapter, 43rd verse. 11th chapter, 43rd verse, in the purport, it says,